Hello, everyone, and welcome to another lifting episode. Today's episode was recorded on 9/20/23. This will be a very interesting topic, or retouching on of a topic that needs to be dusted off in our little, let's just say, mini quest of recapping and redoing some of the old material. This one has come about. At first, I didn't think of it in this particular way, but of course, something was more likely blocking me from finding this or figuring this part out. That it is more of a generalized topic. So uh, this is more of finances in a spiritual world. You could say this is part two or a revisit of that particular topic. I can always join the old episode with this particular one as well, to bring it all home. So, Joanna, you want to do the after I open the circle to true benevolence with no conflicting agendas? You want to open it up with the law of one?
We are all one, and when one is harmed, all are harmed. When one is helped, all are helped. Therefore, in the name of who I am, and I am one with all there is, that only the highest good be done. I pray for you, your friends, your family, your loved ones, to let healing energies in. Let them love you and nourish you and bring you to your highest good. We ask for benevolence to come in, benevolence with no conflicting agenda. Those that wish to participate, those that wish to support you as you hear this conversation. Again, benevolence with no conflicting agenda to come in and to allow for this conversation to be heard, and to also sweep away any malevolence or any mischievous types of energies that wish for you not to be able to hear this conversation. And so with that and with the blessings, we say so be it.
So be it. Now, this is a topic that I wanted to retouch on. Given some recent events in my own life, I'm not going to go into the gross details of which, except for one small, example, of course, that fits with this topic. We've told you that in a generalized way. Of course, you have to fuse both worlds together. The metaphysical New Age community always want to separate money from the whole equation by saying it's evil. The root of money is the want of money is the root of all evil. And I'm telling you, no, it is not. The cabal made this up so that you would not want to obtain your own wealth very much like they did, by any, not necessarily any means like they did, like malevolent means. I'm talking about through any means. They want to say spirit finances. Spirit doesn't know about finances because it's stupid. No, it's not stupid. It knows all about it because spirit is also here with us. So, and there are really no aliens out there that would object to you gaining your own wealth through psychic means like what I do, or money through psychic means like I do, unless they have an agenda to stop you from doing it. There are finances out there in the galaxy. There's galactic standards for every form of trade you can think of, both trade and monetary exchange. So people always say this was part of the control mechanism. Yes, because you're not allowed to have it. This is why. This is, people always say, well, if you accept money, it's in service to self. And then if you sacrifice and give and give and give, that's service to others. I'm here to tell you they're both halves of the same coin. In the cabal's little quest to basically say money is the root of all evil, or you basically giveth unto Caesar what belongs to Caesar, giveth unto God what belongs to God, and the meek shall inherit the earth. Any form of that you want to equate to this, you'll be poor and be happy. In that, they created back in the 90s part of the New Age movement, to where not only would you separate from your own emotions and not integrate what you need to integrate to reground and be your I am presence and lose your self-identity as part of their plan, but they separated the metaphysics from finances. You see. And for a while, I was over in that camp too. When I first, long time ago, when I was a teenager, I didn't realize how stupid that viewpoint actually was. And it's come full circle for me, because now I'm in a stance where I'm both business and spiritual. And in recent months, with there's have some things have waned. It comes and goes. I don't want to say waned. That is the wrong word. It's ebb and flow, and it comes and it goes. Now can entanglements that you need to fix, curses and negative entities and such, and negative targeting focus drain your abundance and drain finances? You bet. It's one of the most common forms of oppression that's out there. Uh, any of that can drain away and put you in some real shitstorm or cycle. This is in that area and downgrade you. People tend to focus on how much money they don't have versus how much abundance they do. And that's also another form of divide and conquer. And I've come across in recent days that there was a particular individual, nobody in particular, but I will say this person would he didn't pay me for a previous session, and I've never gotten anything from him. He kept saying, well, isn't this about the energy? And I had another person say this as well. But and the energy, of course, creates the finances. I understand this part. But what isn't universally understood, or if it's somebody just trying to yank my chain, is that, of course, you need the money to do the business or to get food and whatnot and supplies. And some people are just thinking that oh no, you have to work the humdrum job and then it fuels the other thing. No, you can have it be self-contained. And this is what New Age physical people don't understand, except very few of them, that you can have it be self-contained. And this person, began to run a really lengthy guilt trip. And I basically said, no, oh, isn't it supposed to be a service to others? And this is what triggered me a bit, because it is. Think about this for a minute. Think about selfish and selfless. These labels that have been put out there. Selfish people usually mean self-absorbed. You don't want anything to do with others. You don't want to help others. You're an asshole, pretty much. And that's how people equate it. Selfless is that you always give and give and give, and you never ask of yourself. Those are the common definitions. But what have I said? That selfish can also mean that you're repairing self. You are taking time to breathe, taking time to relax, taking time to do all of these things. And it's also selfless on top of that. So it's both service to self and service to others. So if you take it away from the traditional definitions by which tended to rule that community, or tend to still rule that community, and you relabel them and repackage them, it means something completely different and has absolutely nothing to do with the traditional service to self and service to others. The object is to fuse both of these together and step into your own power again. And so, and some people have viewed me as mean or not being on the path anymore, or dark, because we have changed our viewpoints on some things. We've not necessarily changed, but we've learned more about something. And I myself really have gone through a metamorphosis in that area, especially with beings I deal with. And some people think, oh, you abandon all this. Even the blonde-haired idiot, for instance, some people said, oh, that should have been your main guide since you were a baby. Why would you abandon that? Because it was evil. That's why. It was a church-assigned demonic entity from a baptism that I revoked. And I came to find that out, where you have to do the baptism revocation if you want to get rid of the demon assigned you, if you've gone through any of the church indoctrination. So, and that may sound harsh, but there's no such thing as a guardian angel. You just have true benevolence with no conflicting agendas. Any of the assigned this, assigned that is wrong. This also goes with the, you're either service to self or service to others. You're either Jedi or Sith. Yeah, but last I look, even in the Star Wars verse, there was a gray order that grabbed both things and used it to both help others and basically gain a power standing as well. So last I looked, that was even included in that, folks. So, and you had also the Templars. They were a religious order. They weren't supposed to gain real wealth, but they were the most wealthy order on the damn planet. That became eventually the Freemasons. So you see where all this morphs into one thing or another. Sometimes it starts out as one thing, and it can turn into something completely different. You can, like the old phrase, you can either die a hero or see yourself, live long enough to see yourself become the villain. And that's what happened there. It doesn't mean that'll happen to you. It doesn't mean absolute power will corrupt absolutely. That people are so scared that this is going to happen. Oh, I'm going to corrupt. I'm going to corrupt. Oh, that person's corrupt. They're charging a lot for this. No, folks, no. This is completely wrong. And there used to be there was a friend of ours named James Edward Smith that would always say, what are you worth? And what you're charging is what you're equating what your piece is worth to you energetically and what it is worth overall. And there are times I agreed with that and times I disagreed with that. Like, I will make things affordable for people, but at the same time, I'm not going to give it away. So there is a middle road there. But
But you're almost giving it away.
Almost, yeah. Yeah. So I'm almost giving it away. And also my services, people. And I'm not bitching. I am not bitching. I'm grateful for what has been given, but at the same time, I get miffed at those that are expecting something for nothing. And I also get tired of tire kicking as well. People know what I'm saying when I say tire kicking, but with more specific, where you want a session from me, and then you're shocked and surprised at the price. And I have to say, and I know with our usual followers, you're going to go, Chris, why are you mentioning this? This is important to the topic because, most trench workers, you never see them. They're usually doing the janitorial work in the background. They're usually like the janitor in a school cleaning up vomit. So yeah, with the sawdust, or in Disney World, where the guy's cleaning up the vomit with the sawdust. It's that where you normally don't see it, and they're normally not public. I know 3 that I know by name, myself included in those 3, maybe 4 if you count one other one, that are actually out in the open. And when people get a session, they will try to shop around and look for something cheaper, thinking I'm too expensive. And then 3 months later, they come back to see if I'm still available, because the profession, that part of the profession, isn't out in the open. And this isn't me being shameless, doing shameless self promotion. What I'm saying is this applies to the entirety of the trade. You can't go into a fair and and not respect the vendors that are there. You can't go want a curse lifted or an implant removed and not expect to toss a coin to your witcher. Okay, so that is how this goes. But that would have been an alternate title for this episode, folks, if I was really trying to be snarky about it. But this is where I'm at, where people want something for nothing, and because of the AI control, because of the entities, because of all this is actually happening. I will, one more thing I'll bitch about though is some people will say they want this and they say they can't afford it. Like, okay, I'll just wait and pray and have guides remove this. They will not. That only in extreme circumstances will they do this. I had Chrome recently remove a nanovirus from me. It is because it was going unnoticed, and it was starting to scramble me a little bit. So therefore, this was different. If some good benevolent beings with no conflicting agendas, very important, that are wanting you to evolve, they're not going to tear it off of you like they did in the early days. And that's how I used to have it. I get annoyed by it. But some of these people, they sit, they hope, and they pray, and they pray, and they pray, and they pray, and then there's these demonic entities laughing at them. Because what are they doing? They're blocking your prayer telepathy. And people say, but Chris, spirit can't be blocked. You are correct, but your receptivity of what that looks like with the synchronicities they're in, not the negative ones from the negative entities, they're trying to block that too. But spirit cannot be blocked, but your receptivity of it can, and your receptivity from ancient knowledge can, and your receptivity to true benevolent source creator definitely can. And this came up in a session today from this time of this recording. The person had a blockage to higher self, and the dream times invasions were coming in through that thread. They weren't allowing this individual to come to a resolve with past life stuff, with oversoul infected garbage and avatar infected garbage, like how it's supposed to be, the mantling and grounding in the I am presence. That's what they're blocking. They're trying to create a regurgitation of the dark night of the soul. And some of these people that I dealt with, they just sit, they hope, and they pray, and the curse doesn't go away until you have it removed. Either you learn to remove it yourself, or you find a professional that knows what they're doing. And I'm far from a pro, but I know some of my stuff. And that's not ego saying this is a fact. And when I say I'm one of the only games in town, that's not ego, folks. That's not me trying to drum up business. That's me stating a fact. I myself cannot find anymore. So, or one's willing to come out in the open, that is. And then even at psychic fairs, other trench workers were asking me, Chris, why are you out in the open? That's so dangerous. Well, I said that work has to be done. And then somebody needs to do it. Even though we said in a GIC episode, we're not keepers of the flame, there is still a job and a responsibility that comes with the label. The same goes with a shop where you sell certain items. This is where I'm getting real persnickety about, because this is important to this topic, mixing spirituality and finances. You own a shop. You own or you sell items that are of a spiritual tool of divination nature. It is your responsibility to make sure you don't bring in crap ones like Ouija boards and stuff like that. Things of that nature, or by people that are written by people that have been corrupted. And I won't go into naming names at this time, but you know what I mean? It's more like Hyman Jinsu's character in Constantine, or like Michael Sheeran's character, Aziraphale, in Good Omens. It's kind of along those lines, whereas there is a responsibility to the trade. It's not all about business. It's about the energy and business fused together. This is also what I've told the heads of fair and large fair circuits. It was just one business person, two business people, and not an energy sensitive that own this. And I explained to the person, I said, they both ground each other. The energy sensitive will tell you how the energies are, if it's right to do something or not. And the business person will curb the flighty, ungrounded person, grounding it a little bit to the earth, saying this is the financial situation behind it, and they both ground each other. You need both. It's an absolute must. But there is a responsibility in that area. Granted, that is my personal opinion, but this is my observation as well. It always goes wrong when you don't have the fusion. You have the people that will not accept money because, it's evil. No, it's so evil. And then you have the ones that do it too much and they crack the whip. You need both ground each other, both married together work. And this is why that is being stopped, this conversation. I felt real dizzy and stuff before this conversation. Obviously, somebody didn't like the fact that I was going to say this and reiterate this topic. But you must bring both of these worlds together while you're living on Earth. And I know a few of you are just going to be shaking your head no, but this is how it must be in order to make this work. There's a responsibility, minus you being the egocentric keeper of the flame. There's a responsibility to remain grounded and focused in what you're doing, why you're doing it, how you're doing it, and making sure you're getting back what you're worth, as James would say. So, Joanna?
So I think one of the important things to talk about here is, again, understanding. I think there's a lot of knowledge deficit on understanding the profession. And so I think that people need to open their hearts and mind to understand that, in a sense, this profession is the same way as, let's just say, doctors, where you have different people focusing on different areas.
It's not all the same.
It's not all the same. And, what kind of energies are necessary for the medium, for the one channeling, for the one doing the work, to actually put out to accomplish what the task is at hand. And I think one of the very big misunderstood areas, because it's not out in public, is kind of that trench working, entity removal, unwanted energy removal. And I don't think people understand that there are those out there that are even famous, very famous, that could potentially choose to do that. but decided that it took too much energy. It took so much energy to do it that they actually decided to stay in a lane. Now, did their lane that they stay in open up and help people open up more to these conversations? You better believe it. And that's wonderful. I think, though, that people do have a misunderstanding because the in their mind, everything is the same. A tarot reader is the same as, someone who can talk to your past loved one, is the same, that and the same energy is expelled, and or you're really not doing too much, but you're able to see I'm going to put in air quotes, a guide who then feeds information to you, and what's it really doing. And based upon that, you can have person after person after person, multiple clients in a day, or how many clients you have. But I think when you get down into some of these really hardcore, energetic type of, I'm going to call them specialties that it is hard to understand. And it would be because obviously, people that are going to these are just there for help. They're not involved in the process of peeling things or doing things, the energy it takes to do that, to understand that it is not necessarily realistic that multiple things can be done a day. There is an interesting thing. I think some of the most well-known, there were shows in the, I guess in the 90s, 80s, 90s, where very famous people were doing things on TV and doing things, and it was just opening up the whole conversation, and that was wonderful.
Yeah.
But I don't think many of those people are now doing it because they had an experience, I think, of what it was like to tap their energies based on what a production studio wanted,
Yes.
or whatever, and they tapped their energies to the point where there wasn't the appropriate rest and regeneration. And then people had to make decisions of, can I continue this way or not? Because you become very vulnerable. I think it's a very true statement. That if you actually were to line up a lot of mediums, depending on who they are and the type of work, you could see some very severe physical illnesses that have come upon them.
I know some to die from this. So,
based on the energies and the lack of understanding of the appropriateness to balance and to revitalize and to not take on too much, because those energies do. Just like a person who is receiving and is having this pain, let's say in their arm or somewhere, the doctors can't figure it out, and they hear, this person, and you may have something that is energetic, it can't be seen by doctors, go to them, let them remove it, and they do remove it, right? And you do get relief and these healings and different things that occur. But it is very hard then, because it's just you think you're just a patient. It's very hard to understand what is it doing to the medium and channeler, and or what we refer to as even blowback. And because you may have just taken a naughty's negatives lollipop away from them, and they're not happy about it. So, and you have those issues to deal with. I think there is an enormous amount of knowledge deficit to energy work. And so again, even, so what we've always said, and I'm just going to briefly say it, is that through all these years of you doing things, it's easier for you, of course, if you do it face to face. You may be able to handle dealing with somebody, but most of your work, because people are all over the place, is done over the internet. And then there's energy expended to be able to buy, locate, do, and go and do whatever that is on top of it. So in order to find a good balance, Chris had to basically go down to basically one session a day. And one session a day, can be very taxing. It can be taxing before it begins because the energy starts to stir. It can be taxing afterwards, dealing with aftermath. So it's very difficult. So, we've tried to explain to people, again, that sometimes these wages that you're seeing that people are asking, and some are pretty high, you're not considered really high, are for some folks daily wages, not just a single, not just a repeating wage where they're doing 3-4 people, a day. And so those that haven't reached that conclusion yet, like there were periods of time where you were trying to do multiple and you were then being able to understand what was it starting to do and what was it physically starting to do, to say this isn't healthy, this is not. And I think, again, there may be, again, it's a cautionary tale out there to anyone listening who's in this line of business, that you may end up realizing that if you're biting off too much and trying to do too much, you could start to yourself have issues what the answer is. You need to back off a little bit and rest and rejuvenate, and find and make sure the energies and what's going on. From what we understand it, and not saying that to be mean, it truly is a cautionary, because what you want are these people to be around. You don't want them dying young of diseases, of cancers, of different things, because they've been so worn out. You want the longevity. So there has to be some reformatting and rethinking of how to help as many people as possible and provide information. We like to also provide information kind of in the sense of, teach a person to fish, in a sense that there's a lot of skills you can learn to help yourself. But there are going to be times when people do need a session. And again, what are you worth, in a sense, meaning what is the medium worth, but what are you worth? Mm-hmm. Meaning, if you have to pay a couple $100 for something, but it really does deal with issues and it really puts you in a better physical slate, and then you're learning the skills on top of it, aren't you worth that as well? Right now, I think where we're at is that there's still so much skepticism about, is this real or not? Kind of like the UFO phenomenon. Mm-hmm. Is this real or not? But just like the UFO phenomenon, more and more people are just naturally believing there's no way we're alone. And then more and more people are naturally coming to certain conclusions. There may be something to this energy work, energy hearing, clearing as well. So it's a complicated subject, because I feel that there's so much, again, as I call it, just knowledge deficit. And if you're not having experiences or whatever, it can really be hard to just, accept or bite that off. I do want to say that I think also what's going on, this is just now, I'm going to say it's my opinion, but when you have certain ways that you get used to, that, and then you're asked to, let's say, participate a little bit more, I understand people wanting to back out, and I'll give you an example. You pay a cable bill. Many people have cable and they have a cable bill, right? So now it's a very, interesting dynamic, because when you pay your cable bill, you get all of this stuff, right, on your TV. And so now, it's, the world is changing. And again, people are being asked to pay for this package or that package, or pay for this station or pay for that station. Mm-hmm. A different way of looking at things, more a la carte, of interest and everything. The other thing happens to do with, again, you're paying a phone bill, right? You have access to the internet. And you have a lot of things that you can look at on the internet. You always have had a lot of things you can look at on the internet. But you think, I'm paying this bill, I should have access to all of this stuff, and And in your mind, you're like, I'm paying enough a bill. Why do I need to support something more? So again, there's a bit of a knowledge deficit of what is you're paying that bill actually doing. And right now, you get some services and you have some access and you can go to YouTube and you can watch a little bit of things. But when people are craving information in certain areas and they want to know and have these conversations, what you need to know is that truly that it takes a lot on YouTube to get, let's call it monetization. So you're asking people, will you talk on these subjects? Will you do this? Will you do that? Well, then you run into daytime working hours, just logically, and or it may be more than what a person can do. For example, many people have spoken to us about better lighting, better, why don't we have a little studio? Why don't we have whatever? Well, you can't magically poop out that kind of money to just do it on your own.
Be nice, but yeah.
Right, you can't do it. And regular people cannot do it. I think some people would be surprised if they actually saw behind the scenes of some of their favorite internet things that they like to watch. The crew that is truly behind the scenes, a mini production company going on.
Yeah.
And how are they doing that? Well, they're actually, either on Patreon or, asking for a small subscription, or they've gotten enough followers to follow them that maybe YouTube monetization is part of the funding that allows for this stuff. And so there is a current present moment of this date issue going on where even somebody who really a lot of people wanted to hear, who were really feeling good topics of conversation were brought up. And as timing would have it, and again, many people are surmising it's the timing is because there is an attempt to squash conversation, let's say, that, scandalous kind of accusations, and without any sort of, let's say, trial, now you're guilty until you're found innocent.
Yeah.
This person has been literally shut down, even on YouTube.
In the blink of an eye.
In the blink of an eye, demonetization is done. Pulling out of sponsors is done. Canceling of conversations, in a one-to-one theater setting.
And also think of the word demonetization. What's the beginning of that word? Demon.
Right. So again, we're also in this interesting dynamic. We're fighting, talking about, can you really have free conversation, or is it really all of the players now in place to be able to shut certain things like that down?
Like those guys that got money off of people that were hedge betting on the GameStop thing. They made a movie about that. The little person made a lot of money, and those companies cried foul over it because somebody was actually able to break out of the meek inherit the earth thing by getting more money out of it. And
right. So you have these kind of issues. So many people are like, well, if people want to hear this conversation, if they want to participate, I can't be up 24/7. It runs into daytime working hours. The only way that you can do this is you ask for support, potentially through a subscription, and try not to make it too horribly expensive. For Chris, for example, the subscription is it $5?
Yeah, for Tactic and its dollar console.
$5, a month, which is $60 a year, to try and get support, because I don't think people understand, even for us, what it costs to keep this running. There are fees associated because you have to have a place to put things. We don't have a room of servers running. You have to have place. You have to pay fees for all of that stuff. It's not what people are thinking, that it actually does cost to do these things. And so the interesting thing that already happened to us, if you can believe it, is that I think it's been 2 years now. 2 years ago, received a notice from Patreon
and Vimeo,
that they felt that all of their community standards and principles were violated, and that they didn't like any content that was provided, and they got rid of us. So those Vimeo and whatever was a way to try and again get subscription and get help and get whatever. So what I think again, what may be happening behind the scenes is you hear about, like, again, something current present moments going on, and a person has literally been shut down. Well, pretty darn well known, but what else is going on behind the scenes of people who may be bringing up conversations as well that may be good for the public to hear and to consider, but they're being completely layer by layer shut down. Like I gave the example of what happened to us, blew us away, because I'm like, how did we even catch anybody's attention? And to say you like nothing, that there's not one word of anything that's ever been said, and that you're just shutting it all down as a mechanism, again, of control of potential dialogue out there. So you're left to try to be able to have these conversations, to try and find some way to reach out to people and have these conversations. And where can you go to have them? How can you find a way to build support, because the conversation wants to be had and people want to hear it? How do you support people that and more the way that people are going to end up having to support people that are having conversation that may make people rethink belief systems or whatever? What are they going to? There's only one way. It's going to be to trying to find a way to put it out, but it's going to have to be requested that some sort of support is given to them so this can continue, because there are no sponsors behind the scenes. And if you're not following, just like, again, very famous psychics, had a problem with their producers, many of them, because they were trying to get them to do things that they knew were so wrong, and they had to end up parting ways with some of this stuff because it didn't work. So you're left to talk to the people out there to understand, again, how are things really working? And if you want any of this, how is it going to have to happen? It's not going to happen out of the kindness of Google's heart. It's not going to happen out of the kindness or whatever, where they're not getting something back and or in control. So if you think of all of that stuff, you have to understand that you need to expand your thoughts on this and look around and see what's really happening. And you may actually have to pony up a little bit. People are trying not to ask because they figure if many people participate and actually help and assist. So it's a complicated subject, and I know we're going to bring somebody in, but I think more so than when we had the original conversation. We had this conversation originally, and now multiple years have passed, where I think everyone now is starting to understand that you can't financially function no matter what you're doing with nothing. Mm-hmm. And you're also be happy, right. And you're also seeing how there is a control mechanism that is trying to shut down conversation. And then how do we have to rethink about this in these different areas to support conversations that you find interesting, that you find potentially that you need to hear, and how it then will impact your life with some of these thoughts, that you relook at things in order, again, to see the world around you correctly and see what's really going on, so that you can then mull it around and then decide what is the experience I really want to be having. Mm-hmm.
And also back into the conversation of some producers will try to do things that you don't want. Many years ago, around the time I was writing From the Fall of Lifting, in fact, I was contacted by a paranormal show at the time, very famous one that's no longer in existence now. It ran its course, obviously. It was known for extremely over dramatizing paranormal instances all the time, because they wanted it was entertainment value. like certain comedians out there making up stories for entertainment value, which I don't condone either. But and for laugh value, but with this, it was based on some paranormal instances that I had out there, and they were just wanting me to give consent for them to basically give me money, and I would just let them use it. They're like, "Well, what's wrong with you? We're paying you. Shouldn't you just take the money?" I said, "I am the captain of my own ship. Yes, I want money out of this, but I want the story told the right way. You are not in control of my story." And they're like, "Well, no, this is our show. We have to have it this way." I said, "You can't over dramatize it. You cannot overbloat it." And they're like, "No, it's our show. We do it our way." I said, "It's my story. I do it my way. I'm the captain of my own ship. Take it or leave it." That's when they hung up at that point. So there are lines to be drawn, whether you take the money or not. But this is where I was fusing some of this in, and there's another incident before I do the galactic portion of this. Years ago, this was a time around the time I first met Joanna, at least in this expressional value, anyway. Where I'm not going to name names again. There was another famous insider, and you know our story on the champions, where they're elected. They're placed, to basically continue on like either disclosure narrative, or you have to say something particularly on their show. You have to say it a certain way, be a certain way. You can't go too far into say something like, say, the soul trade or the satanic crap and stuff like that. You cannot utter a lot of that. This particular individual, was talking to me after there was an interview done with him, me and another co-host, and I'd done a mini read on this person, and this person contacted me afterwards and basically said, "Look, I liked how you did this. I know a group of people that you may have seen on TV for years. We'd like to actually make you part of this. But there's conditions behind this, basically stating that, basically I said, me and Joanna were a package deal. That was a no-go for this person. That was a deal breaker right off the bat. And this is where I've gotten kind of PTSD towards that by anybody else wanting to say I'm the star or something like that. Get major triggering over that. But this person basically said, no, we got to focus on you. You got to do it this way. You got to do it this way, do it this way, do the reads this way, the channeling this way. And I said, absolutely not. I said, I am the captain of my own ship, like I said to the others. I said, and they're like, no, you don't understand. There are things in this narrative yet you cannot talk about. And I said, I talk about whatever the hell I want. And I talk about whatever the hell I want, when I want, how I want. And how we do the same. Like we're speaking to you now about this subject. And our candor that's involved in this, we're not under any form of restriction or narrative. And I knew at that point this was more of a job interview that this person was conducting. It was just to see if I would just go right into it or not. Now, the one could argue this was more of a Kabbalist way of doing things, for basically more of a false disclosure narrative, whereas they will try to get you to do something, agree to something or something compromising in the beginning, like a very famous particular podcaster that is having some things done at the moment. But they will try to get you in a compromising position, ritual or something. Hollywood's full of these things. The disclosure crowd is full of this too, folks, where sometimes taking the money is not the way to go. Where, it might be good, but you're stuck running their narrative. And if you go outside of that narrative, it's like what's happening currently. So with other people. So not mentioning names, folks, and you might get irked that I'm not mentioning names. I have to continue this practice even a little bit into our subscription material. I might slip every now and again and say something, but we have to continue this practice because this is another way we've avoided the cancel culture. A power in a name, you can link in and tangle into their garbage and get nailed right along with them too. That's a form of magic that's out there. It's a very old form of it, as a matter of fact. Maybe that deserves its own show at some point. But this is also the point, I believe, where we bring in Galactics, that there is this thick ether that's been forming as we've been talking. This is more of like an angry focus. It's come on from that direction somewhere. I always say direction, but that could be a dimensional space by which an opening is forming somewhere and then beaming from a particular direction too. Or a beam could be standing there. It depends. But there was a particular person that I wanted for this particular episode. He was on the previous one. I mentioned James Edward Smith. I cannot seem to get him to save my life. So I've been trying to call out to him. I asked my mother to do the same. If there's any signs of him here, speak now. True benevolent James Edward Smith. Then you're welcome to talk on our material. If not, we'll go with one of our regulars. But I feel the energy lifting here. Hold on. Give me a second. If this takes too long, I can always condense this. But Isaac, you said he was going to be here. Why is he not here now? Oh, AI interruptions and okay, yeah. That's why I have the communication arcs. So okay. Well, we'll go with it. So what Isaac, you, Lane and Vesta, Forest people, whom? It can't be all three of you. Okay, let's see. Gotta make sure that even though it's cloudy out right now, and that blocks a lot of AI junk, this is more focused on myself. So that's very important to understand as well. So I believe, okay, it's not coming from there. All right. I was hoping on James because he could have done his "What are you worth?" speech, and basically what he said, what I said at the beginning, he would say, "What are you worth? What you're charging determines the worth and the value of the energetics of the piece, and vice versa." Like I said, I don't always agree, but yeah, you get, that's why I should price things higher than I do. But I also have to see what people are willing to pay as well. So that's going to change in the not too distant future.
Well, we don't have a choice. The raw materials. You guys know how it is out there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, Isaac, are you wanting to do something? Okay, you'll do it. Okay. You said he was here, but earlier, unless that wasn't you. So, it was not. Okay. All right. I thought I saw him, a glimpse of him, but it felt too heavy to me earlier. Maybe if something comes up in the future, he can add to this at some point. But or he was already on the previous one anyway. So let's see. Isaac, you're more than welcome. Benevolent Isaac, not some shade. So. Crystal. Yes, you guys have been on point with this. His bitching aside, he managed to convert it into an actual topic or forge it into an actual topic. So this is actually good. This needs to be retouched on because this is a very nasty form of programming that still lingers. That, oh no, you're not supposed to touch money because it's evil, or it's the root of all evil, or the want of money is the root of all evil. And I can tell you right now that that is not true. Again, this was them trying to separate you from self and gaining real wealth. So when people do these things, they're targeted immediately, especially if they're small timers like yourselves, no insult intended. But there are things happening right now to that keeping you in the out of the limelight of the champions is actually a good thing, but at the same time having a basis for income. Side gigs are a good thing too, as well. So if you feel that you are not supposed to, foolishly not supposed to earn money over what you can do psychically, of course, you have little side gigs that you do, but you cannot morph into somebody who basically says, okay, for the next part of the session, I'll pay a little more. No, that's not what he's doing. That's not what they're doing. That's not what Katrina was doing. No, it's not the same thing. And also going back to the opening and closing of the circle topic as well, where you can't jump from read to read to read to read to read, tarot read to, or otherwise. You have to allow that to settle, close the circle and allow it to settle. This is an absolute must. He is correct to a point on the shop responsibility. Yes, you're not the keeper of the flame, but at the same time, yes, there is a responsibility to the trade. I can go along with that. Not to the level of Hyman Jinsu's character in Constantine, but you get what was trying to be said in this. But I can go into questions if you like.
So I think, again, compared to when we did the conversation before to now, so much has occurred. And people are hitting the pocketbooks, of course, that it's getting harder and harder in the United States. I'm sure it's going on around the world where people's savings and everything has really, really been dwindling. And I think people can start to connect the dots that, there is something afoot to drain, people.
Mm-hmm.
I think, and again, and a concerted effort to silo people, that's the only way I can think of it, silo people into only seeing, hearing, participating in, an approved, let's say, narrative.
Just like what you were told about any medium that would go to anyone on the street and open up. That's not necessarily a thing that is wise. This is also, also do not let the client run the ship. Meaning, if you are drained at a certain point, that is the point you should stop.
And I think that's very important. And that goes, of course, back to what we were saying, that I do not think it is truly yet understood what it takes to do this kind of work. And again, in the midst of your own personal crisis.
Stop as in end of session, not stop as in career. Yeah.
Correct. So, but again, pulling it back to the point of it's the clientele and the general public that do not understand what it takes.
Producers, directors, they don't get this. They're laying in their trade.
They don't get it at all, and neither do regular people. Again, in the comparison of it's all the same thing, which it absolutely is no way near. And anybody who's been involved in this for many years will tell you that the different lines of work that people do with this, it is absolutely not all the same. And the energy output that it actually takes to do certain things. Mm-hmm. But I think, and what I want, hopefully, for people to understand is that the way that these forces are trying to work and again silo people into seeing only the approved narrative, that's the only way I'm going to say it, that it is making it harder and harder for very important conversations to be had in a way that isn't involved in some of this approved narrative or this, that, and the other. It's getting very harder. Mm-hmm. And so it will be something that, in order to preserve it, people are going to have to be willing to contribute a little bit financially towards something if they want to keep this information coming. It's because you can't expect free on the other end. It takes money to participate. It takes money to get the information out there. It takes, what I don't think people even realize, even for what little we do, is again, Chris being a one-man show, how much time does he spend on editing and getting things ready? That people do not understand that in and of itself is can be anywhere like 5 to 8 hours a day spent on that. So if you want this kind of stuff, not just from Chris, but from others who really are trying to bring out information and they don't have a crew, let's say, that it's very difficult to understand what is going on behind the scenes to put out what little is being done. Mm-hmm. And if you want it to expand and be done in a more polished way, let's just say, that there has to be the understanding that then there has to be contribution coming from somewhere. And not sure that sponsors or different things for certain people are going to be coming, because there seems to be such a control over a narrative. So
this is why you two have had such a hard time finding these sponsors, because it is part of the control mechanism. It always has been. They determine with the bang of a gavel or the dropping of a curtain, let's just say, in this particular instance, who is worthy, who is unworthy, basically to carry the hammer of Thor type of instance, the worthy, unworthy crap. Well, oh, you've gone too far in this. Now we're going to accuse you of something. Therefore, sponsors gone. Yes, sponsors can be a good thing if you find the diamonds in the rough. This is why you have not found this, because they're hardly there. Now, if you manage to get a sponsor, yes, it's fine, but at the same time, you would run into the same conundrum with some clients think they can run the clock down, or they can make you do this and make you do that, or with that paranormal show, over dramatizing. Investors will then demand that it be done a particular way to gain them more of their investment back, and they can be just as ruthless as, say, the mob. So with this, yes, this is why certain things have not always worked for you two. It's because of some of the people you've run into suggesting the business or a way of doing things was more along the lines of that particular area. Not that it's all bad, mind you, depending on what the vocation or the subject matter or genre is. If it's storytelling, absolutely, all day long. You can put the proper words in there or not, or whatever, the movie and TV type of thing. Now, if it's something like this type of work, there are restrictions on this, just like with your tower busters and the amount of them there is and how to place them and whatnot. This is the same type of thing. Whereas, yes, you can sell all the other things you like, but the tower busters have their restriction. Think about the trench work and sessions in the same category. Yes, you can have a lot of sessions. You can fill up the entire calendar, but you only still do one a day. 2 was overpowering to him after a while. He had 3 at one point, but that was too much. And I will say that is too much. I witnessed this. But the thing of it is, though, sometimes if you don't disengage, you'll take on that person's problems and even curses. This has happened before to himself in the past. So the thing back to the sponsors is, know that if you get any, which is a strong possibility, you have to be very selective about what it is and the energy that's surrounding it. Don't just pick the first one to knock at your door. This is advice for everybody. Yes, you need them to get something like that going, because the majority of you listening are on a similar boat. Know that eventually, if it becomes large enough, they will see themselves as shareholders. They will see themselves as heir apparent to the throne, in effect. So, with that said, you don't always want it unless you want to risk being not in control of your material.
And again, I think that concept is, people are starting to see it happen to people. I don't think it was so noticed. I really don't think it was so noticed before, but I think more and more now, it's starting to be seen for the realness of what's going on, which is, again, I think part of the energies that are just going on right now. I think there is a desire from people to just want to see and know and understand. They want to know what it really is. They want to know, and have these curiosities. And so what's really happening is that all of these topics in so many different areas, and especially in the last 5 years, they've just been coming up like a little volcanic eruption constantly. Now this subject matter, that subject matter, and this, that, and the other. But in truth, part of it is coming up because there is such a desire by the humanity as a whole to truly know what's going on, because they want to understand it, because then it can help determine what comes next. And I think people, don't understand again. And I think that's a wonderful co-creative desire from humanity. Tell me what it really is. Tell me what's really going on, and then to help make decisions that what will I support? What won't I support? And I think it's very, very important that some of these things are actually happening, so that people can really look at it. And once they get over, I call it the shock and awe, once they get over the shock and awe, because so much of it is there, but how do you get a handle on it until you rip that Band-Aid off, in a sense, and you see that gaping wound underneath and you start to debride it? You've got to know what's really going on.
And no, remember, when you ask for something, the highest good for what is for your highest good in the moment in time, what was considered to be highest vibrations, we know, faster, slowing, all that other stuff, but what is pertinent to you in the moment, and discard the rest. Remember when this was originally set, also when you use the law of one to set things, know what is really the intention that is set in place. You say, people say in divine timing, which that is, I suppose that's apropos. But at the same time, know what was said. And then you're seeing what you think is the opposite of that. Yes, things can invert, but also at the same time, you're seeing what is supposed to be. Yes, there's overage inverting and force inverting things that happens all the time. But in this instance, what has been your rule of thumb? If you're attempting to do something, it's not quite working in one area, that means it has to have other things to also support it. Hence sponsors, but at the same time, there are other side things you are doing. There's also the sessions, there's also the shows, there's also the subscription. Yes, there are blockages. Yes, there is overage, but at the same time, you are also asking for protection. Yes. Sometimes that comes in a form you don't particularly care for. This is also spirit at work. This is also some fuzzy people out there doing some of this, which is a good thing, by the way. And also myself, Lane invested others. You asked for protection. You asked for what is the highest good in this moment in time. You asked for the law of one to be enacted. You got it. But at the same time, there's also overage, that you asked to see what the truth was, what was visible, what was in the unseen. You got it. You are seeing the unseen that is normally unseen to other people's eyes. You are seeing the in-between spaces, like what he sees, like when I showed him the people putting the white pyramids on the 5G towers in the middle of the night. One time when he went outside with Winston in Lincoln, that was one of those unseen things. Normally that's wiped from people's minds. They don't see those workers. They're normally either both in a different frequency, or they make it so that people are asleep while they're putting that up. Just like some things with the dentists where they pulled implants out of his teeth and he saw the hypnotic look on their face, or programmed look on their face when he asked to keep it. They went, no, and they were all like that. These are the things that are in those hidden layers that people normally don't see. The forgotten. Like the movie, there's a movie called The Forgotten, where some people were erased from history, sort of thing. Also, Your Nowhere Man, where things were erased and recombobulated with a targeted individual, showing what some targeted individuals on the extreme end go through. You're being shown what is hidden and what the narratives truly, truly look like. Did you not think that that was going to be eventually a lonely place? Yeah, I could see you have to an extent, but also it doesn't mean that all hope is lost. It does not mean that you're not getting support. It does not mean that these things aren't picking up, and they are. It's just that there's ebbs and flows to this, and there's ways of meandering around not only the cancel culture, since somebody has a avuncular dysfunction of diarrhea of the mouth sometimes, but In this instance, flow, ebb and flow, balance. This restores all of this. You're dancing on a razor's edge. Around the champions, you're dancing on a razor's edge. Around the rim of a volcano, you're dancing on a razor's edge. Around controlled opposition and opposition, regular opposition, you're dancing on the razor's edge of what is true and what is fiction. It doesn't necessarily come with a price per se. It's just the ebb and flow. I suppose you can say that's a price, but that's so harsh to say this, but you get what I am attempting to say.
So, you know, we were watching somebody again. It was very good we don't, I need everyone to know that we do not go around scanning the internet and scanning everything and looking and following all these other people. We do not do that. Mm-hmm. But every now and then we run across somebody, and it just happened. And I believe it was intentional for us to see there were actually two specific things, because I was actually very pleasantly pleased to hear the conversation that was going on, because again, there was conversation that I didn't know matched. I felt good about it because it matched some of the information that we were saying, but also the complexity even of this particular position in the world of channeling, mediumship, or whatever, and the work that's being done, and the acceptance by these people that there is a, let's say, negative side, or that these things really are real, and the importance of seeing it so that everyone can decide now, what do they really want this world to look like? What do they want to support? What don't they want to support? I appreciated the conversations that I heard, because I felt a camaraderie, accidental camaraderie, because I'm like, yes, and I did not know that others in their own way, probably a little less blunt than us, in their own way, were actually saying some of the same things. So I genuinely appreciated that, because I didn't know what was being, said by different people out in public. So I do appreciate that. And these are people that are actually somewhat known throughout the community for what they do. And again, they're also, there are also people that, are certainly not living poorly, let's say. No. And so but some of the information that they're giving, I was actually glad to hear that was said, and they are supported. The question is, again, who are you going to support? And even the lines in the sand that some of them have had to draw themselves, understanding the respectfulness of, themselves as a person, what this type of stuff does to them, trying to find an energetic balance to be able to have a long, meaningful life rather than a short, burnt out one, because of these energies. So I was really glad that we took a second to listen, because, it's kind of, some of that conversation did what sparked this and made me realize even more of the lack of understanding that many people have about the work and what it takes to do it. Yes, there's far more energies than even he realizes that it takes to even destroy, say, a demon, cutting its head off, sort of thing. And it seems quick, but the fact that he has the both genetic and energetic ability to shift that frequency at such a rapid rate, that's not without its energetic cost either. Yes, the genome recycles it, but and also your energies do. But what you put in you also inhibits that particular ability to defend yourself in that area, meaning food. Also meaning like he caught a nanovirus not too long ago that Dirk Krum had to remove from him, which was quite virulent. Where he felt the pinpricks on his face. Those were actual nanites coming through the skin pores, and they are hot by nature. So they felt like little acid rain drops or fire drops or something like that. So they are hot by nature. But also they will raise the blood pressure. They will inhibit certain abilities, etc., etc.
and it was within certain food items that he consumed or drank. And he thinks it's a roulette wheel as to where you will come up with some of these poisons. And just like in Vegas house rules, the house always wins. So know that it is in a majority of what is out there. You can purge it. You can purge things like nanites, certain toxins in meat, not as much. I'm not going the whole veg route. I'm just saying that even your devices couldn't purge all of the genetically modified toxins in that. Drinks, different story. You put them on a shungite plate for a little while, and I mean a tower buster one. The others will do fine, just take longer. Tower buster one, it's going to zip those nanites out there faster than you can blink. So that's a way to do it, but there are other toxins that have been now introduced into those particular canned drinks. So I would avoid these after a while. There's also particular vitamins that he's gained an allergy to as well, energetic allergy as well too, that causes face flush that no longer serve. So you asked what served in the moment. It may have served one moment. It does not serve this one. This is also an important distinction. What you've done before might not always help now. Yes, go on, clean the demons out, all this other stuff. Yes, you have to defend yourself, but know when to shut down at times. Yes, I know they will try to magnetize to you and try to get you to stay open. This is the trick. They will throw crap at you, knowing you will defend yourself, which you must, or it infiltrates your core. But like when he was sick and he blacked out for a while, what didn't happen? Attacks, maybe minor things, but you saw those. This is what I'm saying. They're waiting for the light bulb. Sometimes the light bulb of a different color may be the best answer in this. Maybe maybe a different perception or perspective. Yes, defend against demons, do the work that you wish, but know that there is balance and ebb and flow in this profession. It must be honored as well.
Well, thank you. Well, I'm assuming Chris is going to attach the other show as well. So I'm very sensitive to the time, trying not to make these horrendously long. So anything else you want to add, Isaac, before we close this off?
Yes, I know his friend was who he wanted to come through for this because of the topic and because the man lived that particular way. But there are certain energies that make it easier to come through the arcs, as well as certain not necessarily just connections of spirit always being not necessarily blocked, but the receptivity there too. Yes, he's in spirit watching, but we'll pick a different opportunity other than this one to speak. So I stepped in. This is what he should have done on earlier GICs, was this particular pattern, you see. It's something from a particular, even faster moving frequency like James would have worn him out faster. So remember, faster moving, what happens when you're running a sprint? Boom, burnout. This is essentially, you're dealing with something moving quicker, therefore you are sprinting through this process. I'm more akin on the lines with you guys, you see.
Well, let me bring this up, and I know I said we're going to close this, but you just jigged on probably a question that had pretty much come up, because many people still are very confused about being on GIC, doing what he was doing before with the Live Friday show versus now. And so I want to answer kind of that question just kind of one more time, because it really partly has to do with the subject matter that we're talking about. One of the things that, I think even more seasoned people, again, some of these people that have been doing it for 40 years or whatever, and may have been in the public, one of the things, and in fact, I remember the time that we were doing a talk and Chris could not have been up and he said he wouldn't. And there was a gentleman in the audience who came up to him and said to him, I would have thought you were a fake, except you knew you shouldn't channel and you should not channel in all of this stuff. That's why I know you're not fake. But I think what's important to understand is that, one of the areas of problems with doing that, and you had brought it up multiple times for many, many months, was the fact that it was becoming what you felt was a safety issue for yourself, a safety issue for the integrity of the material that was coming through. That sometimes,
which allowed other agendas at play to come. Yes.
that possibly, we're allowing some of that because there was such a predictability to it. And as we talk about when things are going on now, the conflicting energies, what's going to be allowed in, what isn't, what are we going to be able to do, what are we not going to be able to do, that there is a lack of understanding that actually is reality versus I'm speaking to someone who I have now said is higher than me, thus they can cut through and everything is perfectly fine. That's a mythos versus, being able to vet people, do your best to try to, again, benevolence with no conflicting agenda and all of these things. And so what ended up happening was Chris was becoming very, 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 very concerned about the integrity of the material, the integrity of the channel, the integrity of that, and actually requested that these, instead of doing a live show, especially since there was no audience that needed to be interacted with, that this potentially needed to be taped, where it could be decided, and there was freedom to do it. When would be a good day to record? When would the energies be more favorable? When was there time to vet? When was the whatever? That this wasn't necessarily the safest thing. And again, something that Chris had to experience to come to that conclusion, that it wasn't. Unfortunately, what happened is that true safety concern of his was being unfortunately not taken seriously, and or the pressure to not do it.
Because those other parties were not doing the same level of energetic work, and every cardinal rule that he had in this was broken for that particular thing, and it had to be severed at that point.
Exactly. And the same thing like we're saying about people that get involved in TV shows, when you have now producers running it, when you have the expectations of other people, and certain types of work in this field takes so much energy, and it can be damaging to the one. That lines in the sand have to be kind of drawn, and whatever that means beside, because of it. So this concept of what Chris learned over time is no different than what other people I recognize from some of their conversations that they had to learn over time, that it isn't necessarily always the smartest thing to do. And so
yes, also you gotta also remember there's no such thing as higher beings.
Right.
There's no such thing as beings giving their ultimate esoteric wisdom. They'll give you what they know, but they don't know. They aren't the keepers of the flame. They don't know everything. That would be benevolent source, creator, energy, that library, that which that can be accessed by all things. Some may know more than others, and they're perceived as gods. But there's faster and slower moving frequencies. Like I said, a fast one can burn out somebody that isn't quite ready, like a computer processor that gets overclocked and you have to water cool it and do all that kind of stuff to it. It's along those same lines. Just know there's not a light being. Yes, there are beings that make it look like they are made of light, but they're passing from one set of physics to another. That's what makes them look like light and shadow. And the ones that are mostly the shadow beings in people's houses are grays that look like motion blur little scrotums running around. This is what is actually going on. Dimensions, also certain dimensions, those beings can use technology to be in a faster moving frequency, but in their slower moving vessel, they can have buffers, or what be the equivalent to an inertial dampener is for like a starship on Star Trek, so they can use their warp drive. It's the same thing. They can beam it from that frequency, so it feels like it's good and benevolent, and it's somebody evil as sin. And I do use the word sin very heavily in this, folks. Get the hint in what I'm saying. If I keep saying his name like he does, it will conjure his presence. So even though there's an intention behind that, you get what I'm saying. Just know, no higher beings, There's no such thing. There's no such thing as an ascended master. That's why he gets irked at these terms. He always has had, because there's no such thing as ascension. It is, as he said, grounding in your I am presence, grounding or mantling better parts of the oversoul, uninfected, more audited type version of the avatar, auditing in the I am presence here, changing your perceptors and perspectives, as he's always said. That I couldn't have said any better because it's so complex of a process. Now, carbon DNA to crystalline DNA, yes, there's a bit of an issue with that subject at the moment, but it's still a thing. There may be a day where it might not be as close a thing. Yes, diamonds compress. Carbon compressed to make diamonds. Yes, that's true, but it doesn't mean the negativity you encounter in your life or the negativity that you're getting whipped with all of a sudden is going to compress the carbon in your body from all of the compression you're feeling of the bad energies into somehow pooping diamonds out of your ass. This does not work that way, folks. It works in a million-year-old mind. It may work in a compression chamber where you're compressing carbon and making diamonds. It does not work that way with the DNA. These things evolve over millions of years. You have to see that with your DNA. Are you going to poof into your crystalline body and out in the energy into space? No, this is not how this works, people. It never did. It equates, think of it equates of opening up yourself in public and doing the things that that person you saw on the video was talking about to the reality. That's what the what I'm trying to say. One is the fiction, or at least real components in there with some more exaggerated components with the reality. That's what I'm comparing that to.
So, it sounds like we need to have a show called Bitch and Isaac, because you yourself now just went off.
Because these beings bitch when they don't get their way, like little toddlers. So
it'd be a good show. We'll call it Bitch and Isaac and bring it all out. So, because we should deviate a little, but I'm glad you feel better.
But this is what that you guys have been under the eye of Sauron, that essentially you've been under, that applies to the subject. So also he tends to bitch at the same level but more frequently. So
get it all out. Get it all out.
So we all complain about our particular triggers. That happens to be one of them for myself and himself. So
no, I get it. So anyway, back to originally why I didn't end this is that I brought up that question. So I just want to, this is kind of the subject matter. There were other little differences that just couldn't, but this is the biggest thing that it was like, it just couldn't be done the way it was being done. And you have to make decisions on how to protect yourself, your energy, to be able to be in balance if you're in this line of field anyway. We have to encourage that and help people truly understand it. You are worth drawing the lines in the sand to maintain your balance. And so, just, again, as we say, do you, but understand that. Do not let other people dictate what isn't good for your energies.
Yes, exactly. So this has been Bitching Isaac, and I am signing out. Goodbye, everybody. And I have a feeling that that was, if we were doing some of the offshoot episodes of things, I think we were originally going to do the world according to Isaac at one point too, but that got scrapped. So this seems like it would be a good offshoot in the future at some point.
All out every now and then.
Yeah, well, he's related to me, so it seems it fits. So
it's a good question to ask many of them. If you could bitch about one thing, I think I may ask that question from now on.
Or like say bitching galactics or something like that. Yeah,
The bitch.
The bitch. Yeah, that would be. But anyway, this is. I think this has been a great episode here. Before we close the circle off, did you want to give the last affirmation and blessing?
Of course, as always, we send very warm and healing energies to everyone, and we'll always wish you your highest good. So thank you for joining us today.
Yes, thank you, everybody. And now I'm closing the circle within true benevolence with no conflicting agendas. So thank you, everybody. Bye-bye now.
Welcome, everyone. to The Lifting for April 18th, 2017. I am Joanna Michaels, and along with my co-host Christopher Jacobs, he is here as well, and we hope to provide you with information and messages that will aid in your journey of self-discovery and sovereignty. We hope you've visited our website at thelifting2017.wixsite.com/thelifting. And I've received some feedback that maybe people are not hearing the words the lifting and maybe hearing something else like the listing. So I want to make sure we are all on the same page. The website is called The Lifting, not listing, which is spelled Lifting. So again, the website is The Lifting, Lifting, 2017.wixsite.com/The Lifting. This is now our 14th show, and as always, we are so excited that you are joining us either live or in the future. For those new to all of this, we recommend starting at the beginning with our first blogs and shows. Everything is actually meant to build upon one another. We do this to try to provide some structure to unraveling the many mysteries as to why we are here and how we can grow to become the sovereign beings that we truly are. So for those with us live tonight, you're going to be able to ask a question in just a bit. Right now, everyone is on mute, but you can get into the question queue by pressing *6. And then you'll be asked again if you want to ask a question, and then you'll be prompted to press the number 1. And we will answer questions in the order they are received. So let's get started. But first, as always, we want to have an opening affirmation and blessing, and I am going to read that for all of us tonight. And this actually comes from a guide who came through here, I believe, today for someone that Chris was working with, and the guide's name is Lizzie. So from Lizzie, the affirmation and blessing is, may all those who sulk and sour at the perceived world of horrors know that there is light and goodness in and around your world. You are protected. And again, that comes from Lizzie. So I hope everyone has read the blog that we posted. We're talking about spirituality in this financial world, and we've also got something else we're going to talk about before we actually have Chris Channel Guides, which are some pictures that we just sent out on Facebook really right as the show was beginning. For those listening live, hopefully you can glance at those Facebook pictures, and we are going to post them. And again, for those obviously listening in the future, when it comes time, you'll see them pop up on the recording. So anyway, so Chris, you want to start first with the conversation relating to spirituality and living in this financial world?
Yes, I would be happy to. This subject is one that people will find very familiar. This is about psychics and making money. There has been a long-standing disagreement going on in this country between those who feel they should charge for psychic readings and those that believe it is ethically wrong. Over the years, I, Christopher Stephen Jacobs, have transformed myself from one that was staunchly against charging for a reading, even in the slightest way, to someone that has learned the fine art of balancing work and home life. It was my mother that originally got me to see my abilities as worth anything, let alone labeling them with a monetary value. Our friend, James Edward Smith, was famous for saying, "What are you worth?" She also said that one has to live. It is a service like any other. Would you go into a grocery store and say you wanted food, but still demanded that they give it away? No, of course you would not. For quite some time I struggled with this, thinking that somehow my very own thoughts were unethical and wrong. I fought with myself over it. And I came to the realization that just because we live in a so-called slave system does not mean that it cannot work for us instead of the other way around. Guides have told me that with the proper application of my abilities within the business world, that it could topple that very slave system. You see, the system wants us to fail. It wants us to fight, and it wants us distracted and confused. Never successful. What better way than to cause such a harsh debate over a talent that literally everyone on earth has? If you can imagine, you are psychic. It is that simple. Now this next section is what I've wanted to break down with this topic. Psychics that charge. Like myself, there are those of us that have found a way to balance our God-given talents and business. This is not evil, but creative. Psychics that are unbalanced and charge way too much. They've let fame go to their heads. I have seen fame, fortune, and ego make fools of us all. I have also seen people that just go into this field for the sole purpose of milking the consumer by giving only small amounts of information, generic or truthful, with the expectation of making far more when they've reeled a person or persons in for a full reading. I can promise you now that this will never be us. We may charge. We may even charge for a conference or seminar, but we will always be honest and truthful, minus the milking, of course. Some may think that is just good business. However, I feel that it is greed. People that agree with psychics that charge. These people defend balance in home life, so I thank you all. People that think psychics do not exist and that it is all a scam. You walk your path so people like me do not have to. You are the rub, and for your service to humanity, I thank you most deeply and completely. People that believe in it, but feel that psychics should never charge because it is morally and ethically wrong. This is a very strong psyops that has been solely meant to make sure that people with these talents, or should I say people with these known talents, are convinced by others that they must work a humdrum job in order to make it through life. People, if you know you're a psychic and you are working in retail or some other what I call a soul-sucking job, then your talents are being wasted. Don't let others tell you that using your gifts for not only the gain of others, but for yourself is wrong. It is not wrong to use your gifts as the Creator intended, to help others in an environment free of stagnation. I was there. I worked in retail in some fashion for a very long time, and I can tell you that if you are in a job like that where your attention is diverted in favor of said job, then you don't have the time, or think you don't have the time, to explore these areas of thought and any further than a dream, quote unquote. The funny thing about dreams is that you must make them come true. Creation is not going to give you everything on a silver platter. Source will, however, work with you, but not for you. Break free of the misconception that you must work a real, quote-unquote, job and do the work that you came into this world to do. You can't do that if you're in stagnation and you need, quote-unquote, for a real, quote-unquote, job outweigh your need for the real quote-unquote job outweighs your soul's mission. Balance in all things great and seemingly small. This issue has actually popped up many times online, and it's popped up from what I've seen at least over the past 20 years. When I was a teenager in the 90s, I saw this popping up at psychic fairs, saw this popping up all over the place, this back and forth between whether psychics should charge or not. And like I said before, this is just the bad guy's way of getting everybody to ram horns. So, Joanna, do you have anything to say on this subject?
Yeah, I do. It's not just psychics who have a problem in this area. There are also many who show their spiritual talents in different but equally important ways, such as alternative therapies, natural homeopathic arts, organic gardening, and others. In fact, as we said in the blog, we may really want to label the categories as service to others versus service to self to really see the bigger picture here. And I'm not saying that all service to other types of professions fail or people struggle in them. I am saying this because we need to break out of this old paradigm programmed way of thinking. I, for one, think that if we did, then we would really get to more of the heart of the matter, which is that there are service to self individuals who pose as service to others, and we can't stand it. It bothers us. We hate phonies and betrayal of good faith, and we should. It shows we care for ourselves and others, and it is a real fear. We do not want to be duped, especially in an area we may feel vulnerable in. Because if we could do it all of ourselves, if your psychic abilities were all turned on, you have the abilities, you've got the DNA, but they're not turned on yet. But if they were, then you would have no need to go to a seer. It's easier in other professions to know that truth is there. You can see a bone mended. You can see additional knowledge and growth from a school, but not here. There is unseen here, and it is, and so it's scary a bit, and that's okay. It's just that the darkness knows this, and it also plays it to the hilt. So again, we get right back where we started: authenticity and discernment. Many want others to prove themselves in the known acceptable ways. Success first, then I will trust. But isn't this the old trust the messenger stance instead of discern the message? It is a hard road to navigate for sure, being both the person with a gift they want to offer and the clients they want to help. Let's at least be honest about the why. Do we really know that the organic gardener did not use pesticides and labored harder in the fields, and thus his cost is higher, than a gardener who uses only GMO seeds and sprays Roundup once a week on everything? And what if you trust a source and then found out it was not as you thought? Would you label all of the same guilty? The darkness sure hopes so. That's why they control both sides of the argument, to confuse, in order for you to have the default response of condemnation of like things. Who do you really think was behind the statement? So if you believe God will provide, then prove it. Who would promote such a response? Then you equate success with dollar signs, and well, then you have it. The demand for success first before trusting and wanting to engage. And then nothing can develop. So I say we must all deny the known and start over again, even our own philosophies, especially if wanting to create a new way of being for ourselves. And it starts at the beginning. Do you even know what your gifts are that you give to this world? If someone described them to you, would you know? Would you see you? For many, I again dare to say no. Many people live their spiritual path and contribute their energies on a day-to-day and moment-to-moment basis and still feel, what have I accomplished? We have all seen these types of people. So I dare to say, if the darkness controls much of both sides to an argument to confuse, what is out there that gives a mixed message? It is obvious to see service to other professions that still need to have food stamps. So how are we to take this? The person should be ashamed of feeling good about their self and profession because they know they make a difference in others' lives. However, the darkness of this world sets them up to need assistance themselves. Do you honor these hardworking, caring people or shame them? For many, there's been a lot of shame to the point of only seeing money as the worth of this world. And you need to think hard about this one, because I think we have all been unknowingly guilty here. Do you honor the nursing assistant that cares for the elderly and disabled, or the one who makes your biscuit and coffee just right every morning? Now, I'm not trying to shame you. Just want to say what is wrong with feeling good about these honorable contributions, and what's wrong if these people feel it and they would like to just stay in those professions. Nothing. And they do a great job and a great service. But how many people feel that somehow they should better themselves? Why? Aren't they doing an enormous contribution for the good of all right where they are? And so then I refer back to our discussion on joy and abundance. What is it? And how does that relate to our gifts we want to share with the world? For me, I know that's what I want, abundance, but what does it mean? What are the feelings that I want? What are my needs? I dare to say that you need to know yourself and answer this question in order to determine if you can bring to life certain dreams at this time. Ask yourself, can you have your abundance if it requires you to give up your own independent living and live for a while out of a parent's or friend's room to bring your dream into fruition? Do you really want to put forth the energy normally required to start up a new self-employed profession or venture? I am not saying that there is a right or wrong to this question, because it is very subjective. I just know that you need to feel joy and abundance living in the now. What does that look and feel like for you? And then again, as Chris mentioned, there is balance. Is this world ready for my gifts? Will they be as valued to others as I feel they are valued? Can I create my joy and abundance with the gifts I want to bring out now? Because service to others is service to self, after all, or at least that is what we have been told. So I guess what I am thinking is that I do not know all the answers. I just know that there is a lot more to consider than maybe we have thought of in the past. And so, I actually I have no idea what's going to be said by the Galactics, but I really look forward to hearing from them in just a few minutes. But before we go to them, we want to also bring up a separate topic. We've been encouraging everybody to look up, because there is a lot to see if you pay attention. So we have some very recent pictures we want to share. There were 4 photographs that literally were just sent out, as I said earlier, to the Facebook post right before the show started, for those of those people joining us live. And, of course, for those that are watching later, you're going to see them pop up here as we discuss them. So they're very interesting, and really quick, before we talk to the Galactics, we're going to discuss them now. So this first picture, the one labeled Pictured 1 from the Facebook, was taken at 2:44 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Somewhere, the driver, who happened to be my sister, was between Indiana and Missouri. She thought it was very strange, and she wanted to know what it is. So, Chris, why don't you tell us a little bit about what you found out about this picture?
All right. This particular picture, if people don't know which one is number one on the Facebook, it's one of the gray sky with the wavy clouds along the upper tree line. And I came to find out that this was a wake that a ship left as it entered into the Earth illusion. It was cloaked, but it left a trail as it entered through a portal. And this is what Simeon and the rest of my guides told me earlier, including the Galactics that are standing in here this evening, are actually telling me now that I've got it correct. This is when a ship enters the illusion, it wants to remain hidden. Some people see these things as just other, like, either chemtrails or chem waves and stuff like that, but some of them are actually ships that have entered in a cloaked state into our atmosphere and into the Earth illusion. So I thought that first one was pretty fascinating. Okay, number 2, I believe this is. Yes. Okay, number 2. This photo is of a ship. I came to find out. This was of the very same person I read today. He sent this picture as part of his reading. I don't know if he wants his reading posted, so I'm not going to mention his name just yet. But his guide, Lizzie, pointed out that she was on board a spaceship that could disguise itself as a cloud. It was actually, she's of the feline species. Some people call them Lyran, and some people think they're Syrian cat species, etc., etc. Came to find out they have a lengthy history that they spread across the galaxy and had breakaway civilizations and the like. But this particular ship, there was a mixture between Pleiadian Nordics, like my guide Simeon, and some of the offshoot Lyran cat species. This particular ship had the ability to cloak itself in pure light. Now, some Pleiadian vessels are built out of what's called solid light technology, and they have a regular ship that kind of would look like what would look like a battle cruiser to us, like kind of almost like a Star Wars battle cruiser in a way. That was kind of rounded, but their light ships actually would look like a light being to somebody that was unaware of that it was technology, and they kind of elongate into almost like an egg type shape when they're traveling, and it looks like they're made of pure light. That's what that number 2 photo is. Number 3 is another shot of that particular light ship, but it is at a further distance away. And number 4. This is going to take a little bit longer to explain for number 4. This is one that we took today, as a matter of fact, coming back to the house. For people that are looking at this, it's of a blue sky, taking a picture out of our windshield on the road, and you'll see these wavy lines going upward. Now this is what people think it is. This is a chemtrail mixed with HARP effects. And yes, have I said in the past that a lot of HARP was disabled? Yes, but there is something I would like to clear up about this. Just recently, people may have heard reports that California was getting rain again. Because there were some good guys that took control of a HARP facility. I can actually confirm this particular report that other people have given online. The good guys took over a HARP facility and began to make it rain in California again. Also, they began to shut it off. Therefore, the Earth began to take over again as the main source of the rain. It was starting to balance out more. But this particular effect you are seeing is a mixture between chemtrails and HARP being aimed at these particular trails. I'm not sure what they were raining down in this particular effect. Shortly thereafter, a chemtrail actually appeared straight through the center of this. My guides that are here in the room, let's see what they have to say. Okay. They were raining down something that would... can you please repeat that? Okay, give me just a second. They were raining down a substance that would do something to one of the waterways. But this particular HARP facility was actually... was actually taken back by the good guys. This is a facility that would be in Virginia, close by. But that was taken back by the good guys, and this particular chem wave is actually a restoration of nature. They were originally, the Cabal plan was what? Was to actually start to disintegrate elements of nature. And make it look like it was a drought. They were going to dry up elements of nature and actually start the process of making it look like the water was receding and there was going to be so-called natural disasters. This is what the guides are relaying to me right now. But the good guys took control of this, and this means the rains, they're saying the rains will flow as normal, the plants will grow as normal, and the water will be around like normal. So that's what they are relaying to me from that last picture. So, okay, Joanna, you wish to add to this?
Yes, so there was actually one last picture that we misplaced, but it doesn't matter because I can just tell you guys what to do. We hope we are really stirring your interest to keep looking at the skies. And the last thing that I want to bring up is something that kind of I noticed quite a while back, and then again talked to Chris about, but I also was realizing other people were noticing this as well. And it has to do with when the sun sets. So you want to pay attention and see if you're seeing what I've been seeing, which is it doesn't matter if it's a cloudy day or not. It could be bright, sunny skies all day long. But if you notice at sunset, where the sun sets, it's always cloudy. And that is not how it's supposed to be, folks. If it's sunny skies, it's supposed to be sunny skies. But what's really interesting is the clouds don't move. They stay in the area and where the sun is setting. So, again, I kept showing this to Chris and, was bringing this to his attention, and wanted to go ahead and let them know what that's all about.
Sure. A while back, I discovered that there was a cloud formation, and Joanna noticed this as well. There was a cloud formation that would always cover the same spot at sunset. It would be to the right of our sun, and it would always cover the same spot in the sky. And I knew there was something to this because of past photographs that I've seen, past channelings I've done, videos I've seen on a second sun that is in our solar system. The spheres and the Cabal and them have taken great pains to conceal this second sun. There's all this mythology around, it's Nibiru, that's the second sun, etc., etc. Well, this second sun is a brown dwarf star that is in our solar system. And this particular cloud illusion keeps hiding it, but every now and then it fails and somebody either sees it, takes a picture of it, or films it. And I've analyzed other films that people have sent me and such, and I can tell you right now that is actually legit. The guides are saying now that is legit. So when the sun sets, look to the right of the sun. You will always see some kind of cloud formation in that area of the sky. Nobody ever takes notice because, who would think anything different of clouds? Just exactly like that Pleiadian light ship. Nobody ever thinks any different of them because they're clouds. Well, there's a variety of races that use clouds to disguise their ships. Why not use clouds to disguise the second sun? And you may be wondering why they are actually hiding this. It's another star. What power would they lose if this other star were revealed? Well, I'll tell you, it's this false mythology surrounding the whole Nibiru scare. If they were to reveal that that was just a brown dwarf star, just like our sun's soul, they would not be able to milk this Nibiru mythology and this whole Planet X mythology and the whole end of the world garbage that they keep spreading surrounding this supposed Planet X. So this is why they don't reveal this other sun. They just want other people to wonder as to if that's Nibiru, and people are starting to be scared, and et cetera, et cetera. If they were to reveal this second sun, these mythologies and these stories would have absolutely no oomph or power left for them to use. So we hope you enjoyed looking at these. Keep looking up and send us pictures of what you notice. We will share some at times. So now we go on to the Galactics. This is that stage in the show where we talk to the Galactics about what they wish to bring through about tonight's subjects. So let us see what they have to say this evening. All right. Let me get a drink here, because I know there's at least one guide in here. Make that 2. Make that 3. Excuse me just a second. Okay. Let me see here. Okay, from people who listened to the last show my mother was on, they will recognize Henry. And they will recognize the name James Edward Smith, of whom we mentioned earlier in the show and the previous show that we did. And Henry came through. Thankfully, he didn't curse up a storm last show. So that's me bashing him a little bit. So let's see. Who wants to speak first? Of course, Henry. Okay. We'll see what he has to say. Just a fair warning, he was always famous for dropping a bunch of F-bombs and other curse words. So, let me see. Greetings everyone this evening. My name, as you know, is Henry. I, of course, as this one said, do curse as a sailor, but we will not get to that just now. In my heyday, as it were, in your Viking period, I did notice similar arguments as the ones posed this evening on whether people should charge for their gifts and if they should or not. This argument is actually much older than your modern period, or supposed modern period, dear ones. This is actually a very, very ancient argument that has spawned into your internet and social media. This particular argument has one solution. Know thyself and be thyself. If you wish to be one that charges for your services, by all means do so. If you wish to be one that gives it away, by all means do so. But do so only if it honors your soul's path. Only do so if it honors what you came in to do. Now, as my dear friend James said in life, and with my blessing, there is a side to this that I do back the paid psychics because of the fact that this shows that they are willing to balance the current financial Babylonian money system, as you call it, and that of their gifts. How else are you able to spread your word if you are distracted and in, as this one says, a humdrum job? No, it is not always completely possible, dear ones, especially if you are in a low doldrum, as you would say. Say in your retail world, when it is full of distractions. Yes, would this word of yours help all those masses of people? You bet it would. But if your energy is below what this one would call the energy threshold, or below a certain frequency, that word will get drowned out in the distracted crowd as people go through their day-to-day lives, not caring or seeing or feeling or sensing things around them. When it gets through to them is when you rise above this particular frequency and you're able to get this crowd's attention in a very, very meaningful way. Not in a violent sort of way as some humans would proclaim in a bloody revolution of arms. No, 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 no. Yes, you are hearing this from a Viking warrior, dear ones. This is not the preferred method. No revolution or tip of a sword will bring about this word in the meaningful way in which humans think that it will. No, no, no. This balancing of work, home life, your talents, and your spiritual life all must come first and foremost. Balance in all things. This does not mean you harm your neighbor because you have a disagreement over whether or not to charge for your, as you say, God-given talents. This is not the way to do things. This is the AI's way of pitting you against each other because they realize your power is far more noble, far more powerful than they are. Remember this, everyone, tonight. Though all beings in this universe are your equals, we are your equals, you are equal to us in every way, shape, and form. This does not mean that you do not have the power to rise above the influence of these AI spheres, reptilians, and the like. These are the beings that keep you down, yes, but you also keep yourselves down by remaining in the doldrums that these other beings put you in. This is what I have come to say this evening on that subject. On your second subject, with all the photographs that you have displayed this evening, these are very, very interesting. I was the one giving this one the information on that photo of the chem waves. I can confirm for you now that these HARP facilities are under the control of the people you call the resistance. Yes, did I just say that violence would not solve your problem with the cabal? Yes, but these people were actually taken out of there in a non-violent manner. They were actually, as you say, surrounded, yes, by the good forces that wished to take them out of there. And no, this was not an instance of mass arrest like some of the false media out there proclaims. This was an instance where goodness, light, and balance won the day. These people in this facility were so programmed that when we discovered them, they were still going through the motions even though some of their equipment did not function. They were still pushing the buttons as if their equipment was still in operation in some areas of your underground bases. When we stepped in and took this programming away, we found layer after layer of goodness and balance and people willing to stop what they were doing because they did not recognize they were doing anything wrong at all prior. They thought they were going in there to do their jobs. Most would blame these people for becoming programmed to begin with under the autocracy of Nazi Germany. No, no. These people were under the impression that they were there to fix computers or run computers or just, as you say, integrate software and the like and debug computers and the like. These were the people that we found. These were victims very much like other people. We are not saying you must proclaim yourselves as such, but this was the point that I was making. These people then wholeheartedly shut some of the equipment off that powered HARP and the chemtrailing equipment, then rebooted it and repurposed it by reappropriating balance for particular areas that balance was taken away. These are the people that will inherit your world, as such as yourselves, as the one you call Jesus the Christ was reported to have said, "The meek shall inherit the earth." These people never raised an arm or a gun of any sort against anyone, not even us, as we marched into this facility and shook the hands of our brothers, even though they at first did not react as we had hoped. They were quite agitated, but there was no violence exchanged. We merely deprogrammed them by merely talking to them. We sat down with them and showed them exactly what they were operating and what they were doing. When we did so, they wholeheartedly changed and were very apologetic. This is what I have come to say this evening on that subject, other than the fact that there is goodness and light in this world. Remember, it is not all gray aliens, it is not all Draco reptilians, chemtrails, controller spheres, lies, and half-truths in your media. There is goodness and balance out there that watches you and watches over you in the seeming darkness of space. Thank you. All right. That was an interesting one by Henry, and I'm looking over at him. He's actually taking a bow like an actor on a stage. So we will see who the other two are here in attendance. All right, it looks like my old friend James Edward Smith is here. He passed away some years ago, and he became his, as people would call, his higher self again. He still shows himself as I knew him to be. Tall, dark skin, in an African-style robe and hat, and has a blonde-colored beard and no mustache. And that's how I'm seeing him to be. If I had a picture of him, I would put him in the video after this was on YouTube. He is actually sitting in front of me right now. And what does he wish to say this evening? If he wishes to talk straight through me. Okay. Okay, this should be very interesting. He was actually in life and now. He is a very powerful individual that made an impact on my family back in the 90s. So, he's actually going to step in now. Oh, give me just a second. Hello, everyone. My name, as he would say, is indeed James Edward Smith. Back in the day in which he and his dear mother, Katrina, and the dear Henry Foundation knew me, I was a teacher of many, including to myself. I was a teacher to this one and his mother, and many friends in my stead, about those you call aliens and those you call your brothers from space and time. I told that group then that all was already among them, and all was in both disarray and balance. This was more long-winded then, but I do not wish to get into the bulk of then. I wish everyone here to listen carefully, please. I wish everyone to exist and live for today. I still exist somewhere in the moment, even though my human body is no more. I still exist in this moment. I still exist somewhere. I am also urging all of you to always use your intuition and discernment when looking at your internet, even though some things were less prolific in the day I walked the earth. Discernment is more important now than ever before. I wish to state that my feelings in this matter are most abundant. In the matter of discernment about what your world is embroiled in and what it is not embroiled in is this. The subject you know of as aliens and UFOs and the like is not what it appears to be, everyone. This subject I brought up even then was, as you would say, not in its entirety. I am actually being kind at the moment when I say not in its entirety, because I wish to state this. When I did cross over, as you would say, I did indeed see a spirit world, but then I quickly transitioned to the man I was prior to entering your grand illusion, as some have called it. I will not name who I am out in the galaxy, because some people would become confused. But in this particular instance, I did then know what was truly going on in and around Earth. There is this misconception that all that happens on your world is somehow alien. And yes, are aliens involved and entrenched in your world? Yes, I must agree to this. But there is something else that I wish to state. The ones you know of as the Nazis are the ones that are creating at least 90 to 95% of what you see in your world. They wish for the good out there to be demonized. They wished for all that is pure and light in your universe to acquiesce to their perfect race. This is something that towards the end of my days on Earth I saw with my mind's eye. This is not something that I passed on to my students because this truth was not something I could bear at the time. So I wait now until I was in my, as you call, spirit body to reveal this truth. Many UFO occurrences across your world are controlled by that of the, as you would call it, the Fourth Reich of Nazi Germany. This is something that can be traced back to history. This is something that can be definitely traced to your histories. There is truth in some of the works and books out there that I have seen thusly. But there, I must also say this, not all UFO occurrences are that of these people. No. Not all UFO occurrences are that of Dark. No. Just like that picture of the ship, this light ship, these are the good guys that protect your world. These are the beings that you should trust. I know, revealing to you that your own race of humanity has such people in it. This is much harder to bear than seeing it as purely from an outside source. Yes, are these AI and Draco responsible for a lot of mayhem around your world? Yes, they are. Are these Greys responsible for a lot of mayhem around your world? Yes, they are. But in this particular instance, I must say that these people that you would call the Nazis are also equally as guilty. However, from a source standpoint, one must know that most of what you see is indeed a lesson in discernment and a lesson in protection. Yes, this overage they speak of does exist. I can confirm this. But once that is skimmed off the top, everyone, then you have your lessons to be learned. Know that finding brotherhood in people, finding equality in people, and finding the heart that people have, just as dear Henry has just said, is so important now in this day and age, finding this balance and not hating people for being programmed and being victimized. No. It is also equally as important not to see yourself as a victim, but see yourself as sovereign and see yourself as balanced and equal to everything in creation, one with creation itself. These people, though they appear as your enemy, they appear as your dark mirror, they are your fellow human beings, and thusly they are a part of each and every one of you. They, as dear Michael has said in the past, are not necessarily to be ignored, but they are to be balanced. They are to be sent blessings. They are to be seen as your fellow humans and fellow equal beings in the sun. This is the way that you bring all of this to a head, a balanced head that everyone here can enjoy in the sunlight and out in the breath of creation. This is what I came to say this evening, but I will be back and future shows to speak about other events that I know that my students that would think themselves the former students are most familiar with. My name on earth was James Edward Smith, so therefore others will know me as such this evening. I thank you all for listening to me and putting up with my dear guide Henry over here, who has been at my side since the dawn of our creation and separation from Creator. Thank you. All right, now let's see. Let me see here. The energy has gotten so high that the little dog that lives here is pacing back and forth very quickly. All right. It looks like there is one more galactic this evening that wishes to speak. And I put James Edward Smith up there with the Galactics. I know he'll want to speak on a future show that has to do with his original soul name, which is in high controversy at the moment in time. So this is why he did not want to bring it up to confuse. So who wishes to speak this evening? Lastly, so if we don't get to questions tonight, I do apologize, but the Galactics were very, very insistent on speaking. Let me see. Okay, we have, it looks like a dragon in front. I do not know if this is Lentazar. No, this is not Lentazar nor Relento. So let me see here. Who is this? Let me see. Also, this is somebody that actually was able to change forms into a man form in front of me. So, this looks to be someone new. This was not necessarily a dragon form. This looks more like a Fae type form to me. The Fae sometimes are under a bit of controversy because some of them tend to get very mischievous and do some harmful things to people. But this particular one I'm sensing malevolence from. He reminds me of, no disrespect to this particular being, he reminds me of a hairy Muppet. So, let me see here. I'm not getting a name from him currently, but he may want to say this when he's in me. I'm going to confirm. Benevolent. I said benevolent.
Did you? Okay.
No, I said benevolent. Okay, if I misspoke, everybody, I mean he's benevolent. I do not talk to anything malevolent, so that's me having a tongue tie moment.
Okay.
So, okay, he is benevolent, and I will check with the guides to see if he is indeed that. Okay, there we go. Thumbs up from them. But he was able to change into a variety of nature elements here, so. I will. Oh, he's very insistent on talking this evening. So, give me a moment. Good evening, everyone. My name is quite lengthy, but you may call me for future reference as Morm. I am that of the group you would know as the Elemental Code. I am a hybridization, as you humans would call it, of beings. I look after the grounds of the earth. I look after the caves and the trees and the waterways and the mountains. I look after all that is considered sacred and considered not so sacred. My people and I do exist within cities and also in nature. You would dub my kind gnomes or fey folk, though I am actually a hybridization between the two. Our people do coexist with the beings you know of as Sasquatch and Anakim and other names that have been given to those people. We coexist in nature with other humans that wander into our realm. I wish to clear up a few things this evening about the roles of the Fae in your culture. There are various beings that have been labeled with the name Fae, though it is usually only one species that is actually called that name. That would be what you humans would know as the Green Man, or the Fae or Tree people. There's also the Fairy people of old. There are also other kinds of decrepit life forms that actually harm the earth and actually take control of animals and the like and cause mayhem and mischief across the face of your world. This may have nothing to do with tonight's topic, but I wished to bring this up nonetheless. There has been some controversy out there about the all surrounding Fae folk. Yes, there are these mischief makers that actually make sounds in the night and actually tap and make noises and actually make sounds and mischief and steal and cause fear. Yes, but just know there is goodness and light out there in the forests and the mountains and the waterways and the grounds, the caves of your world. There are whole civilizations of small beings, or beings you would consider small, that have been around since time in a memoriam that you know nothing about. There are so many small, as you say, breakaway civilizations on your world that you know nothing about, that if you discover the breadth of all of them are out there, you would be shocked and amazed and astounded. My people have existed since the dawn of the Grand Illusion and before. We, along with many other elemental type beings, as you would call us, were charged with helping nature grow. Even though there is some falseness to the, as you call it, ley lines, as these people here have said, I can assure you there are chakra points, as you would say, on Earth that we help to maintain, along with those beings you call the Antiqua or the Anubis people. We aid them amongst the ones you call Sasquatch and the others you call Dogmen. We have existed doing our business, as you would say, for so very long. We have seen the earth die and be reborn 6 times in your histories. But humans know of none of this. This history has been taken from you and has been, as you say, shoved under the rug. But just know that Source remembers all, and also the Agarthan Network has saved some of this information from these other 6 hents in your culture. They have the histories that they were a part of, and hence the halls of Atlantis, you would call it, has this particular history on my people and many others. But just to give you a clue of where my people reside in this state you call Virginia, we are in a cave system that has been hidden from you with what you would refer to as magic. If we opened the portal, as you would say, to our world, you would see a wondrous grouping of colorful plants that you call mushrooms and colorful grasses that have luminescent rainbow effects that you would call bioluminescence. You would see fish that actually exist on land, and you would see insects that have no sting, but actually can speak on a unified telepathic level, indicative of how trees speak to each other. Yes, there are worlds such as that, dear ones, that exist beneath your feet and right in front of your very eyes. Please open your eyes and know that what you do to nature and what nature does to you has a lasting effect upon you and upon the trees and upon us and many other cultures that are around. We do not hold malevolence against you, dear ones, for things that you do. We know you are on your own learning path, and we respect the path that you are on. We wish to walk with you in our realm one of these days, dear brothers. My name is Morm, and I am that of what you call the Fey folk. Thank you, and good night. All right, folks, that I believe that caps the hour off tonight. I am very sorry we didn't get to questions this evening, but the channelings took up the bulk. So, I will end this show this evening with the affirmation and blessing, and Joanna will read off the announcements. This is by Lizzie, the one that we spoke of earlier. May all who have heard our words learn the true meaning of balance and love. Lizzie. So, Joanna, you wish to read the announcements?
Sure. Everybody, thanks so much for joining us tonight. Just a reminder, there are plenty of shows to listen to. If you go to the Lifting website and look at that library, Chris has appeared on many different types of shows, and if you haven't checked it out, I'm sure you'll see some other interesting topics that will appeal to you. And again, the website is thelifting2017.wixsite.com/thelifting. You can hear this show as soon as we end it by calling the replay number from Free Conference Call, and that is 712-775-7039. And again, you enter that participant code used for the live show, which is 356878, and then you can listen to the very last recorded show. All of their shows are posted to the Lifting website, and this one will be posted sometime tomorrow. I know he's got to add those pictures into it before it goes up. Watch for our weekly blog. We'll post one every Monday and discuss it further on the Tuesday show. And then hopefully between reading the blog and listening to the discussion on the show, you will be able to reflect and ask questions related to the topic. For tonight, of course, you can send questions into the lifting2017@gmail.com, or if you want to wait and for the actual show itself to post on the YouTube, then if you want to go ahead and type in questions, we'll make a point to look for them if they're related to the show here, since people won't be listening, and we'll try to respond that way as well since we've run out of time. The next Viewers Questions show will be on April 27th. Again, we'll choose questions from the audience to answer here, and depending on the volume, we may not get to every one for that show, but the ones we get in, then we'll make them first in the show after. And again, we're going to be hopefully here shortly working on the FAQ and uploading it with some what we refer to as the frequently asked questions, and we'll be updating that tab. You can schedule a personal reading from Chris or Katrina by going to the website and clicking into the appointment tab. And just as a reminder, they will not go over a 2-hour reading in one session. And again, if you would like a session with Chris or you need a question answered, there used to be multiple ways that he made himself available for you to reach out to. However, there is only one of him and a lot of you now. And so the only way to do that is by going to the lifting2017@gmail.com. You need to start your request for a reading session there. I'm going to be assisting him with his calendar, as well as that's where you also need to go to ask a question. We really just cannot promise that we're going to answer your email back personally on questions, but we will, again, if you make them generic enough, we can answer them on the Q&As. So thank you so much for joining us tonight on this episode of The Lifting, and we will chat with you again next Tuesday. Take care, everyone.
Good night, everybody.